Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of r/malicious compliance. I took a coworker's parking spot after they complained I was arriving late. My commute to work got progressively longer and unpredictable over the past year due to 4 bridge closures occurring within months or weeks of each other. No date has been given for their reopening, so for the time being, short of heading off for work an hour or two ahead of time, you risk arriving a minute to 5 minutes late once or twice a week. Everyone has been impacted by the traffic in one way or another, which I mention because there was no way someone could feign ignorance. One coworker, though, didn't care about legitimate reasons for my being slightly late for work every now and then, and complained so adamantly behind my back about it that my immediate supervisor reluctantly wrote me up. I knew it had to be that one coworker because they would get noticeably irritated whenever traffic conditions were brought up. They would leave the room, loudly interrupt with unimportant questions or comments, or roll their eyes. They're also known for complaining about every little thing, at one point having played a big role in not having a seasonal employee rehired the following year. Despite that coworker, I love my job. So I started leaving for work an hour and a half earlier than before. My arrival time is now anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes before my shift starts. And that's when I noticed the annoying coworker always arrives about 10 minutes early and always has a very convenient street parking space available. I used to park on a different side of our building before traffic got bad, and had never noticed that they'd unofficially claimed that public parking spot as theirs. Most of the time, I'm at work early enough to get my pick of any spot in our always crowded employee parking lot, but no parking spot other than theirs makes up for my having to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. That coworker can't complain about my being late now. They know better than anyone that I'm at work way before I have to. I've mentioned my arrival time to other coworkers with them in earshot, so they know I'm parking there out of spite. I've also gone as far as parking right in the middle of a space large enough to accommodate their car and mine. I have no idea if they've complained to our supervisor about it or not. But I really want them to have been stupid enough to complain about my taking their public parking spot away. Next story. Oh, you want individual emails? You got it. Short little story from my new job I've had for a month. I recently moved to a new state and got a new job managing an office in a medical field. Every morning, one of my responsibilities is emailing a list of patients by the type of appointment they had and the details of their appointment, called an encounter, to records from the day prior. I separate documents by type of appointment and attach the files to a single email with the date. Having worked in records before, sorting by date and having subcategories for type was easiest for me, and this is the way the new place trained me to do it. After about 2 weeks of doing it the way I was told / the way I thought was easiest, I got a very abrupt passive-aggressive email in response. Send encounters each and individual emails. Thanks, angry records person. I tried to reach out for clarification. Do they want an entire list of one appointment type in an individual email? How the heck do you want it done? Just tell me. There was no answer from my question, so I just continued to send it how I was taught. Another week goes by, and I get another passive-aggressive email. Per my last email, send encounters each and individual emails. No please, thank you, or response to my questions at all. So I maliciously complied. It took about 2 extra hours of my time, but I did as she asked and painstakingly sent each encounter in a separate email. One single encounter per email. That equaled about 60 emails back to back to back instead of one nicely laid out email sorted by type. 2 days of this and I quickly got please stop. You are cluttering my email. You may send me one email with the encounter types attached. Thanks, angry records person. Yeah, I thought so. I continued to send the emails how I was trained, and I haven't had a problem since. Next story. I can't take time off when I want. So what about when you don't want? In 2019 I started working for a big accounting firm right after college. I already had a bit of experience because of a few internships and I always worked part-time since I was 16, but I was mainly hired because I spoke 4 languages and they had business with a lot of foreign clients. I was hired as a consultant, but I did a lot of things. I really enjoyed organizing big files and I had a lot of experience with Excel, since I had paid for a professional course during college. So besides my usual work of handling some clients and doing my reports, I was also doing a lot of things like sales reports, clients reports, basically most of the Excel files and a lot of computer-based tasks. When COVID hit and we started to work from home, I was able to automate most of my tasks during 2 or 3 months. I was able to program a code that would basically do the sales reports, most important file, and a few more automatically, and I could update it if needed. My boss was over the moon with the update part, but I did not told him that it was being done automatically. I did not told anyone, for a matter of fact. This gave me a lot of extra time to talk to clients and pick up a few extra new ones, which gave me a considerable pay rise, since I was highly appraised during the meetings with my direct boss and a few higher-ups. Whenever I did take time off, I had to delegate all of my tasks and clients' meetings to anyone I trusted, which was mostly Jimmy, fake name. Jimmy was a good personal friend of mine and was married to my cousin, so we would occasionally take time off at the same time for a vacation or family gathering. I was saving my vacation days for summer and winter, and in the only days I took during 2020, I let my tasks running automatically, and I told Jimmy that he didn't need to do that, and he really didn't ask questions since it was less work for him. However, me and Jimmy took a few days off at the same time to go to a wedding in another country, and I was told by my boss that he would let it happen, but to not make it a habit to take our vacation at the same time, and that I would have to work a bit harder to thank him for his good deed, and that my sales weren't getting any bigger in the last few months. I reminded him that I had the higher number of sales in all the department and I was the only one with the extra tasks, but he just told me that it wasn't a big deal, and that anyone could have done that. So when I went on vacation, I turned off all of my automated tasks, and this was a big deal since it was the end of the month and my boss would need all my reports completely updated. Apparently they had to put 5 people to do my tasks so that they could finish the reports, which delayed the work of that team, and the reports were late and lacked a few things that mine had. This was huge since all the higher-ups weren't happy with my boss since he showed them the reports late, and they were clearly a downgrade from mine, and they also commented that there was a team failing a lot of deadlines that month, which was the team assigned to do my tasks. As soon as I got back to work, I got a call from my boss apologizing for not appreciating my work with the tasks, offering me a bonus and asking me to not take time off at the end of the month never again. I told him that it was an unreasonable request, and I reminded him that he already approved of my week off in 2 months, which he apparently was still under approval, and he straight up told me that it wasn't going to be approved. I am not an angry person per usual, but I got really upset about that, and they told me that as long as it wasn't at the end of the month, I could take time off whenever I wanted. Okay, fine. As soon as I got out of the call, I started looking for other jobs and I scheduled all of my time off, about 3 weeks, to the next month, busiest month for us. This was a big deal since most of the big clients didn't speak English or our native tongue and they only wanted to talk to me, but nevertheless my boss approved. Subsequently, Jimmy also scheduled time off at the same time, so despite not being end of the month, someone had to do my tasks since I would once again turn them off. Apparently they weren't able to handle neither my clients or my tasks and they just ignored the tasks until I got back, but some of the clients were really angry since no one could really assist them as good as I could. And I actually got a call in my personal phone from one of them asking him to assist him in my personal time and that he would be really appreciative of my time. This was a huge client and he was actually a great person that had huge respects for me, so I said it was fine as long as he came to my location. I was in vacation with my family. So long story short, they came with a yacht and invited all of my family to go there and to the villa he rented. I spent a whole day helping him and setting all of his orders and requests, and he was more than happy to offer me a job offer once he knew I was looking for other jobs, since apparently I sent my curriculum to one of his buddies' company. It was a huge offer with lots of benefits, and the offer would also extend to Jimmy, who was actually going to work for me, with a great salary also. In my country you don't have to give 2 weeks notice to your boss, so I just quit when I returned and told him that I wouldn't do any of the sales reports. He was pissed, but here was nothing he could do. I am still in the same company, but with a higher position now. I actually manage a huge team and I don't really have a schedule, I just have to travel a lot, which is fine by me. Last I checked with a few friends that still work in my old company, they had to hire a whole team to handle my tasks, and a few of the clients quit because they weren't satisfied with how they being handled. Next time you should also value your employees more. Next story. Make it go 20% faster. Sure. So this happened around 2010 in Australia to my brother, who was a tradesman who worked for a small engineering firm. The pay wasn't great, but the company had great conditions and interesting work. They did varied work from making custom parts for racing cars to large jobs for the Navy. There was under 50 staff on the floor. My brother Peter is the leading hand and answered to the floor supervisor, who answers directly to the engineers, owners. The supervisor retires and my brother applies for the job but misses out. The new supervisor arrives and is a tyrant. On his first day, he harasses Peter about missing out on the job and that he is the new boss now, so get used to it. A couple of days later, the supervisor asks my brother to run his CNC machine 20% faster. My brother objects, but the supervisor insists. My brother says, "Sure, you're the boss. I will make it go 20% faster." Within minutes, the alloy they were working gets damaged, not quite sure how or why, as I'm not a trod-eye. Suddenly, the engineers appear and question my brother about what happened. The supervisor appears and blames my brother. Fortunately, a couple of tradesmen heard the previous conversation and back Peter's story. The supervisor get berated by the owners. My brother applied for another job soon after this and gets it. The new job pays so much better and it's a supervisor's job. About 6 weeks after Peter left, the owners from his previous job ring him and offer him the supervisor job, as they have sacked the supervisor due poor work standards. Peter declines. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel or posts.